gone up. The cry has gone up. Who's in charge over there? Who is in charge over there? I think that probably the man who sits in the far corner of the House is the one who's in charge. With the texts from the person sitting in the office in New York is the one who's in charge, because it's very clear that there's no leadership on that side of the House. I've been a whip. I know what it's like to have a split vote. I don't believe that you would have a split vote on a closure motion. A split vote on a closure motion, for heaven's sake. Apart from the fact that Phil Goff seems to talk about everything and know very little, there is no leadership in the Labour Party. And the fact that you look at this list of a split vote and you see we have, again, as my colleague said, the magic number of 17, but 4 Labour MPs came to this House and didn't have an opinion on a bill as critical as the Rugby World Cup. What, 2 didn't even bother turning up? And I bet that Chris Carter was sitting in the back of the room. Mr. Speaker, it is outrageous that we should see Labour in such a mess that they have a split vote on a closure motion, and the mad dog sitting in the corner there who needs to take his pills wants to look at the truth. This is the truth. It says ayes 23, noes 11, abstain 4 and 2 missing. That's the truth, Mr. Mallard. And how you can have a former Minister for the Rugby World Cup abstain from voting against a bill to ensure that the Rugby World Cup is a success is beyond me. Mr. Speaker, whilst the opposition is in disarray, this national government is getting on with the things that matter to New Zealand. Absolutely, the important things that matter to this.
I apologise for interrupting the Minister during his speech. We'll stop the clock. The member will cease from that kind of totally objectionable interjection. And I mean what I say. He will desist. The Honourable Darren Hughes.
I agree with your comment there, but the difficulty I think that caused the reaction was a most unparliamentary comment that the Minister, using the full microphone, made about my colleague, referred not only to a derogatory name but also to an action, and that was with the full microphone broadcast, and my colleague didn't have that benefit in the reaction. I think it's important it's done both ways. We've interrupted the member's speech, and I heard what happened, and it was in response to earlier very unsatisfactory interjections. But the last one, I will not tolerate members interjecting about personal matters of members of this House. I absolutely put my foot down at that, and I do apologise to the Minister for interrupting her speech, but that will not be tolerated while I'm speaking. Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity this afternoon, whilst the opposition are in such disarray, to talk about what's happening in the rest of the world. I recently attended OECD Minister of Education's meeting, and it's amazing when we're here in the middle of industrial negotiations with teacher unions, and you realise what's happening in the rest of the world, how good we actually have it here under this national-led government. In France and in Italy, 42,000 teaching jobs are being lost in Italy. 42,000 teaching jobs being lost in Italy. And in France, next year, 13,500 teaching jobs will go, and they are looking at losing 40-odd thousand teachers. In Russia, they are talking about losing 200,000 teachers out of their system in order to balance their education budgets. 200,000 teachers. In Ireland, a 2-year pay freeze for public servants, which of course includes teachers. And in England, they've just announced their budget, a 0.1% in real terms growth in each year for the education budget in the next few years. And that means that schools will have to save about $1 billion. They have to make savings of around $1 billion. That's extraordinary compared to this country where we have put $300 million new into education last year and the year before that. And I just read, Mr. Speaker, on the website today that schools in England are going to be forced to publish teachers' salaries, qualifications and sickness rates in order to determine whether they offer value for money. So when you look at what the national government is doing here in New Zealand, we are focused on lifting long-term economic growth, of which we know that education plays a key part. We want to make sure that all our children learn to read and write and do maths while they're in primary school. And we want to make sure that every child leaves school with a qualification that will enable them to succeed in this modern world. We know that we had to rebalance our tax system. We know we need better, smarter public services. This is a fantastic national government.
The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, if there was any member of the executive who would have greeted with great